I think the important thing for people to understand is that in America we have an education system that does not speak to the needs of African children. We want to be able to be who we are, talk how we talk, walk how we walk, live how we want to live, and be producers and providers for our children in the future. We want to be African.
When the weight of the world is on your shoulders, tag about within and then you say, no, I can make it. African. When the pain in this world try to consume you, they can do what they want, cause I will never stop growing, and we can make it. African. From ancient love and family, we gave the world humanity. We made this world a sacred place. We gave the world philosophy. We gave the world its chemistry. We found a world of time and space. From pyramids to ancient scenes, we gave the world integrity. So now we standing tall, yeah. We gonna make it. We African. They can do what they want, cause I will never stop growing, and we can make it. African. Gaining knowledge yourself, I'm glad I'm African. Although I look at the world, I see what's happening. We the people who was taken from a shining culture, blew the noses of our ancient representing sculpture. Capture us with the tactic called divide and conquer. Men and women separated, treated with no honor. Rode the middle passage, treated worse than animals. Stacked on top of each other, somehow we made it through the pain and suffering. They tortured us in slavery. It's quite amazing, we stood up for natural bravery. Look at our people, the conditions we are living in. It's time to battle this world, it's time to shine again. When the weight of the world is on your shoulders, tag about within and then you say, no, I can make it. African. When the pain in this world try to consume you, they can do what they want, cause I will never stop growing, and we can make it. African. We're in this together, for better or worse, through the dark and the light. We're in this together, standing tall, we won't quit, and I tell you we can make it. Yes, we can. We're African. When the weight of the world is on your shoulders, tell about within and then you say, no, I can make it. African. When the pain in this world try to consume you, they can do what they want, cause I will never stop growing, and we can make it. African. When the weight of the world is on your shoulders, tag about within and then you say, no, I can make it. African. When the pain in this world try to consume you, they can do what they want, cause I will never stop growing, and we can make it.
And so what hip-hop music has done is served as an alternative communication mechanism and given African children in this country some of the only understanding of African history that they'll ever receive.
There was a period of time in this country after Reconstruction where African people owned a lot of land, owned a lot of businesses, and did a lot of things. But what happened was the American government, the Ku Klux Klan, and other organizations organized in smashing that effort. So it's not that we haven't tried to own lands and have not organized businesses. It's that if you are African in America or in Latin America or in the Caribbean or in the continent, you will be hunted.
Greetings, family, and welcome back to New Day Resurrection and Liberation. Happy to have you here. I am your co-host and moderator for the evening, Brother Lumumba Uncaged. I have with me, of course, the host with the most, Sister Empress Chi, aka Dr. Fellatio.
All right, all right. Yeah. Hey, brother Lumumba, how you be today?
Doing well, doing well. I can't complain. I woke up this morning, so that's half the battle right there. I'm just happy to be here.
I know that's right. So, what do you think about the air that we now have to breathe?
Well, I've been in the house all day today cooking up. I got some something in the works. I got some I put some promos out there for New Day just a little bit earlier, and I've been working on a little bit of intro video. You know, so I've been in the lab cooking up. I haven't even been outside, but we did have forewarning. We did talk about that. I believe on our last Ethereal Journey podcast that was coming down the pike. So I kind
Yep.
of was mentally prepared for it as well. So, but definitely, another instance of showing signs of the times and you know making sure that hopefully folks are being alerted and getting ready and prepared for what looks to be destined to come.
Yeah. Well, today wasn't quite as bad as the other day. The other day, it was like, wow. It was unbelievable to try to breathe. So, whew, what can we say?
Yes, indeed. And looks like we have Baba Moses with us in the yard, as well as Sister Angela.
Yes, Sister Angela is coming up in a few moments because I wanted her to share some of the information that I heard this morning. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's so much going on, and some of this stuff is really like wonderful, to see and hear that folks are, really doing things to move things forward. But we're going to come to her in a few moments, and she's going to fill us in on exactly what the the sixth region is. I'm sure a lot of folks don't know anything about that. And this is why we continue to bring you information, family, that is going to give you a fuller picture, because what we've learned is that particularly folks that function more so on the grassroots level do not get certain types of information. So we feel really pleased and honored to be able to kind of be a tool and apparatus to make sure that happens. But before we talk with Sister Angela, let us do this real quick. Brother Muma, did you have some house cleaning you wanted to do first?
Oh yes. Let me try to get that out the way really quickly. A little bit of housekeeping and take care of that off the top. Thank you for that reminder.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, so let me get this out the way with the fair use notice as well as the content disclaimer. All right, with that being said, let me share my screen really quickly here, family, and get that knocked out and out of the way. All right. So here we have it. Fair use notice. Okay. This is in accordance with Title 17 USC Section 107. All right. The materials are being offered for educational and informational purposes solely. All right. So this is fair use notice under the U.S. copyright law. Again, in accordance with Title 17 USC Section 107. All right. So let me go to my next piece here. Content disclaimer. All right. The views and opinions expressed in the media or comments on this channel are those of the speakers or authors and do not necessarily reflect or represent the views and opinions held by this channel broadcaster. Due to the social nature of this broadcasting channel, videos may contain content copyrighted by another entity or person. This channel owner claims no copyright to said content. The broadcaster of this channel cannot be held accountable for the copyrighted content. The broadcaster of this channel is a messenger or share of information and strive to verify but cannot warrant the accuracy of copyrights or completeness of the information on this channel. If you have a complaint about something, you'll find your content is being used incorrectly. Please contact the broadcaster prior to making a copyright claim. Any infringement was not done on purpose and will be rectified to all party satisfaction. All right, give thanks. All right, let me stop my screen share there.
All right. All right. And we are ready to rock and roll. Okay, so, family, we've been talking about Ubuntu for a few months now, and it was really interesting. I was able to join in. I was invited to join in on a session this morning. And so we're going to bring in our sister, Dr. Angela Sales, is going to be joining us in a few minutes. She was the kind of key coordinator, facilitator for this morning's session. And I mean, it had folks from, oh gosh, I'm going to let her tell you about it. But the Ubuntu, it just shows you how, without even consciously being aware of it, we are really connecting. Because today I was able to learn more about their Ubuntu initiatives that deals with economics in particular. And that just happens to be Sister Angela's kind of her real forte. She don't know that we get ready to draft her to develop something specific for MWM30 as it pertains to our sisters, because we need to be investing, sisters. I mean, it's wonderful to spend all this money on hair and nails and eyelashes now and all kinds of stuff, but shouldn't we be taking some of that money and putting it into investing, at least for our children, if not for ourselves and our community and families in general? But we'll get into that a little later on. But at any rate, so the sixth region, what is that? Oh, wow. We're going to find out more about that right about now. So let's take this opportunity to welcome our sister Angela, one of our MWM sisters. Sister Angela, come on in the house.
Greetings, peace and love.
Yes, welcome.
Yes. Thank you for joining us. How you feeling this evening?
For having me. I'm doing well, Brother Lumumba. Good to see you. It's been a long day, but y'all family, so I'm here for it.
Appreciate it. Thank you for being here.
We're going to try not to hold you very long, my sister, but I was so excited about the session this morning, so I wanted to share it with the family. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the mic over to you. But before we do, tell the family, what is the sixth region? Because I'm sure a lot of people have no idea.
Sure, great question. Well, when we look at the continent of Africa, and geographically, the continent has 5 regions that have been identified as regional economic communities. They're called RECs for short, regional economic communities. So you have SADC, which is Southern Africa. You have ECOWAS, which is the West African states. You have Central Africa as a region, and you have East Africa, which is I think it's EADC, EAC, East African Community, and then you have the Northern region. So there's 5 geographic regions, and they're called regional economic communities, and they're groups of countries in those regions. Now, in 2003, under the African Union Constitutive Act, there was the Article 3Q that encouraged the full participation of the African diaspora as an important part of the continent. And at that time, they recognized all of the Afro-descendants or children of Africa living outside the continent as the sixth region. And so that's where the term sixth region comes from. It refers to the global African diaspora. And there are some nuances around the definition of diaspora, depending on who you ask. But the African Union, for those of you that may not be familiar, it is the it's the governmental body of all 54, it might be 55 African countries now. There's been some new countries emerging. So I think it's 55 African countries, but the heads of state meet there in a general assembly. And the purpose of them doing that is to, make governance and policy and really try to come together as one Africa. And they do that at the African Union. And so it was that body that recognized the sixth region as the diaspora and all the children of Africa living outside of the continent.
All right. Great. Good. Thanks. And family, we're going to come to you. Yeah, we're going to come to you a little later on if you have some questions or comments about that. But to kind of summarize, the African Union has indeed included people of African descent globally. So that's kind of what that represents for those who didn't know. So we know there's a lot of debate and a lot of discussion going on right about now about some things. And we're going to get a little bit into that too. But just for the record, you heard it right here. You heard it from Sister Angela, what the African Union is, what it represents. And yeah, there's some, other things that we need to look at closer at some other time. But for the sake of this conversation, the focus is primarily about unity and how all of us can be involved if you so choose to. If you don't, that's okay too. That's totally up to you. But if you choose to, guess what? You can. Okay, I'm going to turn it back over to Sister Angela and tell us about today, I guess. Well, if you want to listen, you just go where you want to go with it, but definitely you want to talk about today, this morning's session. But I want our people to really know more about what this sixth region does in terms of the U.S. in particular.
Well, okay, so the United States, when we talk about the sixth region or the diaspora, there's different categories of diaspora. You have those of us who are Afro descendants. I'll use that term because it's an accepted term in the Americas. Now, when I say the Americas, that means North, South, and Central America. That means that, when you go to Cuba, for example, you have Afro-Cubans. You go to Brazil, you have Afro-Brazilians, you have Afro-Colombians, Afro-Venezuelans. And so we're, under Jesse Jackson's leadership became African Americans, but everybody doesn't adopt that. We have the racial construct of black and white. So that's really just kind of dealing with identity. But when you talk about the diaspora in America specifically, you have Afro descendants, or those of us who, identify as descendants of Africa, born here in America, and came through the enslavement, possibly. And we connect our lineage, and maybe even into antiquity, back to Africa. And we're known in some places as the historical diaspora, because we were children of Africa that did not voluntarily leave, that we, came through the human trafficking and enslavement trade. So there's another set of people here in America that came here voluntarily that are also African, right? Born in Africa, or their parents, they might be first or second generation African, and they came here. Either their parents decided to come or they came here voluntarily. They're also considered diaspora, okay? So just to be clear about who is the sixth region and who is the diaspora, particularly in America. So the numbers, they say we have about 40 to 45, I'm gonna say Black Americans for the sake of this conversation, and about 10 to 15 million continental Africans. So there's a distinction of diaspora when we talk about continental Africans, some say contemporary Africans, or when we're talking about the historical Africans. But together we make up the diaspora. So when it comes to the African Union, the diaspora in the sixth region, when it comes to the African Union's definition, their definition is anyone born of Africa that's interested in also investing in the building up of Africa. And so they, have a nuanced definition, but if you go to any country in Africa and you go to their Minister of Foreign Affairs, this is how you know if they're really, how they identify the sixth region or how they identify the diaspora. If you go to any of their Minister or Office of Foreign Affairs, if they don't have a diaspora desk, right, or a diaspora office, then that means that they really aren't, serious about working with the diaspora. And that is trending in another direction now, and that's a whole nother conversation. But even when you do go to countries that have a diaspora desk or section under their foreign affairs, they're usually talking about it's really serving the Africans that were born there. So like in Tanzania, if they talk about the diaspora, they're talking about the Tanzanian diaspora. You're talking about Ethiopia, it's the Ethiopian diaspora. Ghana, it's the Ghanaian diaspora, but they also have a lot of Black Americans that live in that country. So they're like the golden star. But that's a lot of information. All right, who is the sixth region as it pertains to Black Americans? And of course, we all know that today, from my understanding, mankind, the mother of civilization, started in Africa. And so, we've learned that, we might not have been born in Africa, but African was born in us. And so we have adopted, we have accepted and adopted that ideology based on culture, oral tradition, spiritual practices. But now in 2026, not just starting in 2026, but today, the reality is that here in Black America, everyone does not identify as African, or nor do they want to identify as African. So we have a movement that, is delineating indigenous from those of us that, identify as African descent. So that's our own nuance and our own kind of like political power struggle that we're dealing internally within here in America. So it gets very interesting. Now, the event that we had today was organized and hosted by an organization that I've been a part of for the past 3 years, which is the African Union, African Diaspora, 6th Region High Council, and we call it AUADS for short. It's the acronym, so we call it AUADS. And basically, what's different about this particular structure is that it has been formed to be a governance structure. What does that mean? So we're dealing with a lot of things as a 6th region when it comes to reparation and repatriation. Those are kind of like the two main issues that we deal with when it comes to relations between us and the continent of Africa. And reparations, of course, is reparatory justice and making repair for the harms that we've dealt with. And then repatriation comes under like the right to return. Those who want to leave where they are in the diaspora and go back somewhere in the continent in Africa to repatriate. So those are kind of like the two premier and prominent issues. Well, for us Blacks in America, we don't have sovereignty, and that's debatable, but in the United Nations, I should say, where all the African heads of state, this is where they gather. All the heads of states of the world gather in the UN to make certain policy. And us as Black Americans, we don't have a representation that ever votes in our interests because, we're here in this country and, we know the condition of the country, and we've dealt with this ever since our ancestors came here under the horror of enslavement. And so we've had some wins, but by and large, our government is not for us. It's, against us. So when we're talking about global resolutions or declarations or, policies that should be implemented in our country, we don't get it. Of course, the United States voted no, that, enslavement was the gravest crime against humanity. That just happened in March. And there was 3 countries in the UN that voted no, and the United States was one of them. So that proposes a certain dynamic for us here in America. Now, in the Caribbean, you have CARICOM, which is the Caribbean community. And even though they're small nations, they're sovereign nations. They have Black presidents and Black heads of states, and they also have votes in the United Nations. So they have kind of stepped forward on this, on the political cooperation in terms of dealing with the African Union, because the African Union are heads of states and CARICOM are heads of states. And so they're all governments talking to governments. And that leaves the diaspora here in America in a different situation, as well as the diaspora in Europe. I work closely with them, and we don't have a representation state to state. So this is one of the reasons we need a governance structure, because governments deal with governments. They don't deal with nonprofit organizations. They don't deal with NGOs. They deal with other governments. So that's why AUADS was created, so that the diaspora could come under a governance structure so that we can have our own voice to be able to deal with the heads of states. And today we had invited Madam Zuma. She was invited to be our keynote speaker today. I did speak to her this afternoon because she was unfortunately unable to make it, because today was International Nelson Mandela Day, and she was speaking at that event. And so it was a little bit conflict, of scheduling conflict, but we will have a next event. And she, gave her word that we would be working, that she would be able to attend, and we won't have a conflict for that day. But the reason that I mentioned her, because, her husband, Jacob Zuma, was the president of South Africa. And she also was the African Union chairperson. She had a term there. So it's high level, right? And so we're working to be able to work with people who have the experience and the network to assist and support the diaspora in getting the things that, and having our voice heard where we need it to be heard. So I know I said a lot, but let me pause just for a minute, just to see if you all have any questions before I get into the event that we launched today.
Okay, thank you. Yes, thank you, Sister Angela. Okay, let's open up the floor, because that was a lot, and we want to be able, again, family, to make sure that you have as much information and insight. And so, by all means, ask any questions that we're going to talk about this more at another time, but we want to at least begin to introduce you to, or get you more acquainted with, some of what's really going on. And again, as Sister Angela mentioned, in some aspects, it is considered high level. But what we also realize is, if the masses of our people don't know what's going on, aren't directly involved in some kind of way, shape, fashion, or form, realistically, guess what? This stuff is going to drag on unnecessarily more. You see, this is my opinion, this is my assessment, and I stand with that. So it is very, very important now that we make certain that our grassroots peoples are able to grasp what's being said and why. Because at some point, accountability has to be a little more happening, for real. We can't let people continue to duke us. So we've got to be informed, we've got to be aware, and really know what's going on. Not just because, you heard a little snippet here and there, a little clip here. No. You got to know what's going on. When we talk about human rights, you got to know what we're talking about. So let's open up the floor, and family, feel free to ask questions. There's no wrong question, okay? It's about information, education, and at this stage of the game, what we call edification. So let's open up the floor, Brother Lumumba.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Thank you once again for that overview, Sister Angela. Wonderful information. It sounds like an awesome meeting and collaboration that you all were having this morning and afternoon. So kudos and salutes to those efforts, all right, and making sure that we're having proper representation. With that being said, let me open up the floor firstly to those in the yard. We have a brother Terrence, and we have Baba Moses in the yard. So, is there any questions or comments? Opening the floor.
Yeah,
I'm shocked myself. Go ahead.
and I just want to let everyone know, Brother Terrence is going to be joining us in the next segment also, and we're going to talk about a situation that's going on in Louisiana and some things that's relevant to incarceration. But go ahead, brother.
You shocked me. You said we have to be informed of these things, and I surely wasn't informed. It's as expressly I know that human rights is and how our people have been downplayed here. But I see, as you said, Sister Empress, the main thing is if we're not coming together, we're not galvanizing. This thing's going to draw on, and we're not going to get no type of relief or movement that's necessary. Look how long it's been going on for. You just talk about the diaspora and everything. And you know me, I'm state bound, so I can imagine. I don't know about these things going on. How many individuals don't know? But
Mhm.
how do we get the people more aware and informed?
That's right.
That
Absolutely.
be the key. How do we? I see so many people a week, like I've been away for a second, and I understand the mental health issues out here. We don't have each other, and the lack of unity, the lack of the prevalent division that we have, individuals think that nothing that's going to help them. And the main thing is this is what oppresses up here because we don't galvanize, we don't unite and come together for a common cause. They find ways to strip us of every movement that comes forward. They murder our leaders, they incarcerate them, so the visions kind of die with them. Look what's going on out here right now. Everything is getting worse because everybody is caught up with ignorance, just ignorant things. Seem like ignorance is our common enemy. And as many, Black African descendants that we have in the United States, we just don't know. And it's like we're all so many are stuck in a state of ignorance, but they're all right with it. Talking about that conversation was so deep right there. I locked in and it shocked me. Like I said, I'm state bound thinking about what's going on just in the judicial system. When you have something like this so widespread, the real crucial to the system that keep us the oppressors with their foot on our neck.
So thank you for that, Brother Terrence. Is there a particular, specific question or comment that you want to give to Sister Angela?
It's hard. She done spoke so much. I just understand that when she's speaking about the group from the meeting she had earlier, what they're trying to get together, what is it, what it's for? Is to have that voice on that grander scale. I heard. I don't even know what question I asked because it was all so deep to this mind that knew none of it. For real.
All right, all right. Thank you for
Address,
that addition, Brother Terrence. Um, Now, with that being said, we did have two questions. I know Sister Angela has to run in just a few minutes. Probably has about 5 minutes left. But she was indicating that she will be able to come back a little bit later. All right, after she handles some business. So let me see if I can get these two questions off. I'm not sure which one you're able to answer, so I'll let you weigh in on it. One of the questions coming from Sister Gwen. Shout out to Sister Gwen. Also, shout out to Sister Shirley Baker tapping in from YouTube Live. And the question is from Sister Gwen, how do they plan to push for reparations in the U.S.? That might be an extended question. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to answer that in 5 minutes. But the second question that is up is from Baba Akil, also tapping in from our YouTube Live. And that question is, are the bodies, that governing body, are they linked with folks who are FBA, Foundational Black Americans, And is there any interaction with FBA in this regard? So I'm not sure which question you have time to answer. Who you have to roll.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to talk fast because I'll try to address them, and I wanted to connect our work. Okay, so let me see if I can connect it all together a little. I'm gonna try. In terms of reparations in the U.S., yes, that deserves its own time to work through. But I will say this at a high level. There are many reparations committees around the world. In the States, there's thousands of organizations working on reparations. The reparations community hasn't agreed on who would take the lead in terms of dealing with reparations claims. There are a few people vying for it, and there are certain people that CARICOM is recognizing. There are certain people that were with the Ghanaian president when he came to the UN, to Washington. And so, those governments are, choosing certain FBAs to deal with when it comes to the reparations issue. Are they chosen and agreed to by the grassroots or the other, experts in reparations? That's an outstanding question, but somebody is there filling the seat. So I will say that. And if you want to know who it is, it's the National African American Reparations Commission is the one that has been dealing. They were at the press conference with CARICOM the other day, and then they also were part of the Ghana delegation that came to the States. And then 2 weeks ago, Ghana had the Next Steps reparation in Ghana, and they were also there. So they're being invited on behalf of FBAs here in the U.S., but also there's several cities, and that's at like a national level. And reparations has to do with certain claims, and so that needs its own time and space to really talk through the details of that. But there are cities in the U.S. that have where racism has been declared a public health crisis. And Cleveland is one of those cities. And so what can we do locally towards reparations for FBAs? We could get involved locally and put our foot on the neck of our politicians that are in our cities, particularly if you have something on the books, because I know they're real active in California, they're real active in New York. We have in Chicago, even we have, grassroots folks active with their cities when it comes to this reparations issues. But I believe that needs its own show. How's the bodies linked to FBA? Well, I identify as FBA because from my understanding, FBA is a lineage, and it's a lineage where you can trace your bloodline back to the enslavement, like your ancestors. So I'm able to do that. So, just by nature of me being there, I'm going to represent myself, right? I'm going to represent my family. I'm going to represent my community. I'm going to represent my city. I'm going to represent my people. So we do have representation at those levels, fortunately. We also have FBAs that don't live here, and everybody's not in agreement, right? In alignment, even with the reparations direction and which is going in. We do consider it a win that the 123 countries, including all the African nations and the Caribbean nations, voted yes on that enslavement was the greatest crime against humanity. So that is absolutely a win, because what we're talking about here is power. And so what that demonstrated is that the Black presidents have power to get a vote passed in the United Nations, even when US said no, Israel said no, Argentina said no, and all the European countries abstained, which is as good as a no. They were still able to get it passed. So we consider that a win, because that's how you actually aggregate power to get something done. And so we salute them for that. And I know that MWM is going to be doing something official to thank, the country of Ghana for championing that. And we're in full support of that work that MWM is doing. But I will say it didn't go without conflict, because there's an issue with Ghana. Are they jumping the line of reparations for Black Americans, right? And is Black Americans being considered a voice, and why are you inviting France to the meeting about reparations for next steps? And so there are a diaspora that live in Ghana that really, some of them boycotted the next steps because they weren't in agreement with inviting colonizers to a reparations talk, right? But then, so there's a lot of, it's like the ebb and flow, the ups and downs. It's like it's the yin and the yang. It's like, how do you come to balance? So in any issue, you're going to have people on different sides. And I think our job as people who love the community and those who have the ability to educate that, part of our role is to try to find alignment. We might not get perfectly in a line, but we should get enough in a line to galvanize economic and political power, because that's really what we're talking about at the end of the day. And lastly, I just wanted to just share with the family that the AUADS is launching its first awards. And it's going to be next year in July 11, 2027, which happens to be the date that Article 3Q was adopted in Maputo, Mozambique. And it was also the day that the High Council was launched officially in Maputo, Mozambique in 2023. And today we did the launching on the International Nelson Mandela Day. And the purpose of the awards is for us to celebrate the women and men who are in the trenches, those who are advocating for our people after work, those who are, sacrificing even when there's not enough money, they're still showing up, those who are, writing the letters, and those who have to bring their children along, those who that are, feeding the community and showing up to the community meeting, so those are the real champions in this struggle and this work, and so we want to elevate and celebrate, folks, and so that is the premise and the reason why we're doing the award. So you all will have an opportunity to nominate, anyone from your community or your organization, or anybody that you see that's, been doing the work. We know that Empress Chi has put her whole life into this work, this is my life's work too, but I didn't come along until I was a little older. And so it's an opportunity for us to celebrate ourselves. It's going to be held in Brazil. So it will be happening next July. And so we will come back on and give more information. But the reason we chose Brazil, because we know that outside of Africa, the continent of Africa, and Nigeria, Nigeria is the most populous country in Africa, but outside the continent, Brazil has the most Afro-descendants in the diaspora. They have a huge concentration of Afro-Brazilians there. And so we chose there as the first location for us to do the maiden or inaugural edition of the Diaspora Awards. So thank you for allowing me to share. I hope that I kind of touched on some of your questions, but I need to come back and we can take it step by step and take it a little slower so that we can really figure out how to action this information. So thank you so much, Tut. Thank you, Empress. I love you so much. I hate that I have to leave so early, but I gotta go, and I told Empress what I needed to do. So I'll try to tap back in.
All right, sister. Well, we're going to definitely schedule another time when we all have time, because we definitely want to take it slow, because we want our people to know.
Okay.
Thank you, sister.
All right, y'all. Peace.
Peace. All right. Well, family, y'all heard it. Listen, there's a lot going on that most have no idea about. And for the record, and yeah, I'm going to say it, some of the entities that were mentioned, that are being recognized in the more international circle, are not some of our representatives. Okay? And this is why we must make certain that we take a position of a certain type and move forward accordingly, because there are entities that are just petty bourgeoisie stuff. And see, most won't say that. And so I'm in the position to say it because I'm in all of these circles, righteously and so forth. So I can say it where most won't. And as you will hear, some of the names in the group, particularly the group that Sister Angela mentioned, they have no clue about grassroots and not trying to. So we need to be very clear. And again, I'm not trying to, throw shade on any group, any person, but what I am saying is, folks better be real clear about who's representing what for whom, because this is a very serious thing. Now, Sister Angela did raise the issue because this is in some circles a concern, the position that Ghana has taken in certain areas of things. And so, as she indicated, we're not going to all agree on everything. So let's be real clear about that. We are mature people, adults, Black folks. So we're not going to all be 100% about nothing, and shouldn't be as far as I'm concerned. But we definitely have to make and stake our claim, take our rightful places, and hold the line. And whatever other folks want to do is fine. And some of that we support. However, we have to be very clear about what we're talking about, why, and so forth. So that's why with the We Charge Genocide 21, it is definitely about the masses of our people, from the Malcolm X perspective, from the Queen Mother Moore perspective, etc. And we are bringing the information, the history, and the work. Okay, so be real quick. So again, we are being positioned, family. Again, in giving this salute to the 123 countries, it positions us. Like, again, we're not trying to play with this. We're not trying to make it seem like it's something other than what it is. We have to take a position, and it has to be in a certain type, because other than that, other people will be representing us. And we do not want that like that. So I'm going to stop there. We'll talk more about it tomorrow for our Ubuntu session. But for folks that are really about getting some stuff done in a manner that is not only righteous, but that represents freedom fighting ancestors, then let us proceed accordingly. Okay, let's move on. Before we go to the next session, because we're going to talk with Brother Terrence about the campaign that he's working on, I would be remiss if I did not mention that tonight's program is, of course, our July ancestral salutes go to, of course, Sister Assata Shakur. Her born day was, of course, the 16th, along with the great Saint Ida B. Wells. So, one of the questions that I'm really... Yeah, definitely. One of the questions I'm really beginning to ask sisters is particularly those that are considered organizers, activists, and so forth. I'm really beginning to do kind of a comparative analysis, amongst other things, in terms of the work and the postures that our women took years ago. Are we really representing that today to the degree that we should, given all of what we now have the capability of doing? So that's going to be one of the forums that we're going to be talking about for this year's MWM 29, right, as we get ready for next year's MWM 30. But just hold that thought for a moment. The other thing I wanted to mention again for tonight, there's, of course, a focus on police and governmental terrorism. So while some are commemorating, by the way, today is the born day of Nelson Mandela, the former president of South Africa, of course. And this is why you heard Sister Angela talk about this is now proclaimed as International Nelson Mandela Day. Now, that's a whole nother conversation at another time, but I just want y'all to keep that in mind, because we're going to be moving forward in the spirit of Mama Winnie Mandela. All right, okay.
Strong one.
Well, listen, and we'll give you some insight into why that is too. With that said, it is my pleasure to also announce for the first time, I believe in public, that in the spirit of Sister Winnie Mandela, who spoke, of course, in 1997 at the original Million Woman March, for Million Woman March 30, we will be inviting the president of Namibia, the first woman president of that country. So we'll give you more details about that later. But again, we figured that would be a good way to follow up, from Sister Winnie, Mama Winnie speaking, to have the president of Namibia to speak. So we'll give you more information about that later. So listen, before we go to the next segment, let's see if there's any questions or comments, Brother Lumumba.
All right. Just some salutes, shout out to the ancestors, type comments. Doesn't like any questions as of yet. All right, let me come to the folks that are with us. We have Brother Terrence once again, but we also have Sister Eartha. So let me open up the floor in the yard to see if there's any questions or comments with any information that's been shared thus far.
Well, I have a question. I'm thinking about when you talk about us needing to have position in the United Union, United Nations, and everything. Is it just particularly dealing with the reparations acts, or is everything pertaining to, you know, Black African descendants in America? Is it just
Okay. Go ahead, Brother Lumumba. I'll come after you.
Oh no. So with that, when we're talking about representation in the United Nations, we're talking about overall representation. This is one example of the type of representation that is very much so needed, and the reason why we must have representation for those Africans in America, so that we can. Oh, I gotta move somebody. Okay. So that we can be able to have a stage or have a place on the world stage. All right. Now, because we are not yeah, sanctioned or recognized as a nation, that's one of the reasons why we haven't been able to make a lot of traction in a lot of different areas, because we're still functioning from a local level as opposed to an international level, and being able to come forward as a nation in order to push certain things forward, to have a vote, and so on and so forth. So that's one of the reasons why we so very much need to have that proper representation as a nation, with such things as the United Nations and those types of hearings. Let me come over to us as Empress for additions.
Okay, so this is why we've been doing what we call Black Poli Sci 101. These are sessions that really help to bring information dealing with political science and the things that are relevant to that. So to go back to the brother's question, it's been more than 75 years that we know on record that our people have been fighting for certain things. And so we are the ones we've been waiting for, meaning we're responsible to now take things to the next level and then some. And what I mean by that is 75 years ago, Paul Robeson and William Patterson took a petition to the United Nations charging genocide. Now, while some want to primarily focus on laws that are relevant to specifically civil rights, more than 75 years ago, some were taught we have to make certain that we make this issue of human rights just as important, if not even more so. So now, with that said, more than 50 years ago, Dr. Imari Obadeli, Queen Mother Moore, and others formed the Republic of New Africa, where it began to formulate the ideas and concepts of an independent government. So when you talk about provisional, that means something that is in place to help prepare for the actual establishment of a government. Now, these things have been going on for more than 50, 60 years, even with the Nation of Islam. That's more than 75 years in existence. And so even though it functions within the U.S., it does have its own other kinds of operations. And we know that other peoples do that in this land as well. The Quakers, the Mormons, the Mennonites, the so-called, some indigenous, so-called native, they have their own constitutions, they have their own laws, some of them have their own courts, etc. So now, with that said, going back to your question, for some, reparations is also a part of full emancipation, meaning we need our own land, our own government structures, our own school system, our own health systems, etc. Now, that's not for everyone. Some people just want the check or whatever else. Some of us, that's not all we want, or all we're going to fight for and ultimately obtain. So again, it's not just reparations in the context of what most understand it in today's dialogue or interaction. We're talking about from the aspect of what Brother Malcolm taught, which was self-determination. We're talking about what was taught in terms of Paul Robeson, Queen Mother Moore, and others. We're very clear about what we're talking about. And for the record, we are talking about lineage. That is our position. It doesn't mean we don't support other, folk and what they do. To some, yes, we do. But we're very clear about our position. So I'm going to stop there.
All right. Thank you for the addition, Sister Empress. All right, and thank you for that question, Brother Terrence. Hopefully that brought some further clarity, able to answer. All right, with that being said, let me open up the floor once again. Thank you for joining us as well, Sister Manira. Looks like we have in for segment. All right, and yeah, thank you for joining us for this edition of New Day. With that being said, I'm going to open the floor up once again for any questions and comments. Okay. All right. Looks like there is no further questions and comments. Let me turn it over back to Sister Empress.
Okay, so we're going to go to our next segment, and with that, we're going to talk with Brother Terrence in a minute, but I didn't mention the two names I wanted to mention when I indicated that tonight's program is also a focus on police and governmental terrorism, along with our ancestral salutes, and the two that, of course, you probably saw in, if you got the e-blast, in the text blast, you saw two names. One, of course, was Private First Class Lavina Johnson, and the other, of course, was and is the unaliving of Tyrone West, who, of course, is our sister Tawanda Jones's brother. Well, today is the day of both of their, one, of course, is their born day. That's the Lavina Johnson, and today was the assassination or the unaliving of Tyrone West, July 18th. Both of them were victims of police and or governmental terrorism. Tyrone West, of course, was unalived by police people, both city and campus in Maryland, and Private First Class Lavina Johnson, at 19 years of age, was definitely, there was some crazy stuff that went on. And for those who have listened to some of our programs previously, and then you should know the story, we've had our father on numerous occasions. Now, interestingly enough, both of those particular cases, their families did in fact do an independent autopsy. In the case of Private First Class Lavina Johnson, her family was told that she committed suicide. Her family knew that couldn't possibly be true. And so they didn't know that her father was a doctor. by the way. And so once they received the body, they had an independent autopsy where they found that she had a broken jaw, missing teeth. They had some fluid in her vaginal area, all kinds of crazy stuff. So the bottom line is it was obviously not suicide. So they're still seeking justice. And in the case of Tyrone West, Tawanda Jones, the sister and the family, also had the body exhumed. The initial report was that he succumbed to a heart. It was heat, and he succumbed to the heart, some kind of heart, whatever. And they did an independent autopsy and again proved that he was strangled by the police people. So these are issues that we are facing on a day-to-day basis. And again, until we have our own nations, yes, I said it. I mean, we're in the 21st century. What are folks afraid of at this stage of the game? Until we have our own nations, not just organizations, not just groups, where's that getting us? So until we have that, then these problems will continue to not only exist, but to increase, just like we're seeing trafficking all over the country and other kinds of things. It's like really weird almost. Anyway, so just wanted to give that little sidebar. So, okay, let's ask one more time. Any more questions or comments? Feel free, family. Okay, let us move on then. So I got a call, I guess earlier in the week, and the brother that we're going to talk with, he and I had a conversation. Now, a few years ago, we actually talked on kind of often, I think, at one point about the case of the Victors. And so Pastor Victor and his wife are still incarcerated, by the way. And the circumstances of the incarceration lended to possibly being targeted for being, progressive in the community. Well, we're not going to go too much into that right now, but I do want Brother Terrence to talk about the laws in Louisiana when it comes to incarceration, or when it comes to trials in courts and things of that nature. Because now y'all know that they just had some crazy stuff go on there with the changing of the districts and whatever. But you might not be aware of how the state is structured when it comes to certain other kinds of laws. And given the fact that it is our people that's mostly incarcerated, it's important that we kind of get some insight into that. So let's go to that. Brother Terrence, welcome to this segment of New Day, and thank you for taking the time to join us. And I want you to share with us, a little about, yes, I want you to share with us, and again, we're not going to go too deep tonight, because we're going to bring you back where we can really dive in deep. But I want to get folks at least acquainted with some of the conversation that we had and some of the things that you and a few others are doing when it comes to how the court system is structured there in Louisiana. Talk to us.
All right. Well, I'm dealing with the non-unanimous majority verdict rule. That's where you can find an individual guilty during a jury trial with a less than unanimous jury. 10 people can find you guilty and render a verdict that was always invalid, but they made it valid. It's been going on since 1880, but as you know, we're not a nation here. When they so-called freed the slaves, they freed the workforce and they had to reinstate it. So they undermined the 13th Amendment by, race neutral language would allow them to place conviction under a section clause where they could feed the convict lease system. So it was the legislators that went, everything went from state slaves from privately owned slaves to state slaves. So that's what this non-unanimous verdict did. It allowed them to get convictions easier to reinstate the people, to rent them out. It ended in 18. But case law in the Raymond's case, Raymond's versus Louisiana went up to the United States Supreme Court in 2020 and they ruled unconstitutional. What I was telling individuals that the case really just dealt with dual incorporation, stating that these rights were protected for federal cases but not for state. So it didn't apply. But then they killed dual incorporation, said if it go for the feds, go for the state, because unanimity has always been a requirement to take life, liberty, or property from any individual. Right now, even though they ruled it unconstitutional, you have over 1,000 something or more individuals that's still incarcerated with non-unanimous jury verdict, which is no verdict at all. The only thing that could have came from a non-unanimous jury verdict was a mistrial, but it was never rendered by a judge. So I screamed that I can't say the last state, they are hostages basically in the state of Louisiana. But it was exposed in 2018 that the rule was created to preserve the supremacy of the white race in the state of Louisiana. It was exposed at a constitutional convention in 1898 when they actually codified it in the Louisiana Constitution and a Code of Criminal Procedures, as well as they put in place other rules, to dilute the right of Black African descendants to vote, to stop getting office, which is relevant. Like you say, we're never in position to have a voice on the right platform, on the right stage. But right now we have a Let My People Go campaign because they use it on the criminal side, but it's not. It's civil. It's a human rights issue, as you say. We got to stop looking at the civil side. It's a human rights issue. They have not fully acknowledged that they were wrong. The United States Supreme Court briefly done it. So it's still a fight right now. We bring in habeas corpus for Mr. Earl Victor, his wife, and all other individual incarcerated victims of that non-unanimous jury verdict rule. And the thing is, like we say, things draw on when we don't have a supporters there to be able to help the fight propel forward. It's power in numbers, period. And it's power in unity. Division is what they get, so they're allowed to run rampant. Down there right now, anybody that attacks them, anybody that fights for position, they attack them. They tear them down with the courts. That's what they utilize. That's what they utilize with this law. They utilize this law to re-enslave people. So just imagine, since 1880, people been dying without valid convictions or sentenced to be, placed in prison. And what I realized, because I had a non-unanimous jury verdict, and I went through the same court proceeding like that, that they can demonize you. So the trial don't become a trial effect, but usually it's not. It's opaque. So the one thing you have is when you silence Black jurors, because that's what it was about, individuals that are your peers that understand what the Black man and woman goes through in America with the system in the streets, whereas white individuals, they don't know. So they'll listen to this, they demonize you, they throw it away. But right now, that Let My Freedom Go campaign is very pivotal because of the mission that we all on. Mr. Victor was victim to that. He actually had a attempted verdict, actually, and it was because he was progressive. They used that where they had no facts to convict him. They did everything, every ingenious act they can do. They contrived story, and they falsified everything, and they tore him down only because, like we say, we don't have enough people in positions that stand for us and what's right. We don't have people that fight for us. We are alone. So right now in Louisiana, you have a government right now that's just like the United States government with Trump in them. You have a Landry that loves to destroy Black, period. He attacks anything that is right for the Blacks. In New Orleans, they voted somebody in the criminal district. They went and cut that, they cut the seat off. They didn't fight, they cut the seat off and eliminated it, and they going through that battle right there. So they do everything since then, from the inception of the rule to preserve the supremacy of the white race. Our campaign is important. And as I say, the support is important because we won't be able to do it alone. We ask people in order to support first is to be aware. And the first thing we need everybody to understand that nowhere in America was a rule like this able to be implemented. Oregon also had it. Theirs was kind of different. You couldn't get a life sentence with a 9 jury verdict, but you can get a term of years. In Louisiana, you get a life sentence, which is virtual death sentence. But Oregon cleaned it up. They rectified to get everybody new trials. But in our case, we letting you know we pre-trial detainees because we never had a for a trial. So we're coming with this habeas under Article 1, Section 9, Clause 3 of the United States Constitution, which screams that the law that I'm speaking of is a bill of attainder. A bill of attainder is a legislative act that imposes punishment without a judicial trial. Without a completed trial, you had no trial at all. You had no validity to your verdict to keep you incarcerated, to strip you of life, liberty, in the pursuit of happiness. Simple as that. So
All right, all right. Thank you for that wonderful discourse, Brother Terrence. Okay, family, with that being said, I want to open up the floor for any questions or comments that you may have for Brother Terrence. Right. Let me check the chat. Okay. One question that I had was myself was that um, what do you believe the main mechanism or vehicle that we can utilize to better inform the masses of our people on the grassroots level in layman's terms so that they can easily understand and digest the information? One, and then two, what do you feel as though the best actionable steps that individuals can take, in supporting you and those that are on the front lines within this struggle? I know one thing that you mentioned was, being informed, and so that kind of gets back to my first question: how do we, best and most efficiently and effectively inform the masses of people? What are the best mechanisms, apparatuses, and so forth that's currently available to us that we can utilize?
well, social media, the key that they push forward this information was not widespread. It doesn't have the attention that's necessary because it was normalized and because individuals, I believe, scared to speak on certain platforms. But without the love of the people to understand what's really going on, that so many fathers and mothers died in prison waiting to get home. So many mothers and fathers died on the street waiting for the children to come home. Families were destroyed based on this, based on some. And so many people talk about if you locked up that you're guilty, and we know for a fact that they've been utilized the judicial system to destroy our people. And it's like our people, it's like we don't have love that we need. And this is what I'm seeing out here. We hear stories, but we don't move on it. We don't act on it. And I guess we don't come together as a people. We don't spend our money with each other. We don't support causes to raise revenue to fight power with power. Well, I'm just listening to earlier when he spoke that, governments speak with governments, organizations don't speak with organizations. Without power and numbers bringing our people together to even possibly think about nationalizing is nothing. Love is the only thing to bring awareness because all of us talk about believing in something. And that mechanism right there is the only thing, whether it's social media, um, any type of platform that bring forth information, you can get it, but if it doesn't touch you, it's nothing. So we need love. Love is the only thing that's going to open people's minds up to the truth. And love is the only thing that's going to bring support. And so we can raise revenue to fight this. We need the support of the people because we understand what it takes to fight this fight. We have merch at allthewayrightministry.com where they can go support the cause, they can donate, they can pledge. But the thing is, we need individuals to show this. We need people to wear the mission so people can inform others about what's going on. I realize in every state, it's laws that are utilized to keep us oppressed, and a system of bills and work that keep us in this line of fire that knocks the will out of us for some reason. We turn to things to get away from it. So my thing is, I feel like love through social media, through what's presented out there. to open and have the individual's mind open enough to hear, because people hear but they don't care, because everybody feel they going through something. And I think if we don't use these platforms and whatever we bring forth and we come together as a united front in solidarity, even if they hear it, they're not going to come together. So the only apparatus we can use is the energy of God, regardless what we call that being or that supreme entity. We got to understand we still one people,
I
and we need love. Period. And we need that love to support what we're doing. But
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for expounding on that subject matter. All right. And so, just to inform individuals who may not be well informed, this has been a progression of an extension of the system of chattel slavery, right? And
right,
so historically, we've come from the plantations, with the Emancipation Proclamation, and after that, not really being freed until the cavalry came in to support those individuals to push for their freedom with the Juneteenth movement. All right, so that was a gap in the space there of actual freedom and emancipation from actual bondage and chattel slavery. Then afterwards, we have sharecropping, where individuals, didn't have land, didn't have monies or ways of making monies, and a lot of families were forced to go back to the plantation and participate in what was known as sharecropping, which was again another form of slavery because the system was rigged. Whereas you would have to borrow the tools, because they didn't own those things either, that you needed to till the land, to plant the crops, to harvest the crops, so on and so forth. And so those tools were lended at exorbitant interest rates. And so it's kind of like interest of today, 24% in some places, so on and so forth. Whereas when you're paying monies back, and they were only earning pennies to the dollar. So the taxes were astronomical, high interest rate, and the pay was below minimum, right? So when you're actually paying, you're not actually paying on the debt, you're paying on the principal, you're paying on the interest, right? And so that was another way to keep families in perpetual slavery without actually having the title, having a different title of indentured servitude.
right,
Then as they move forward, folks was able to break free and break from that aspect, because we're very creative, and have aspects of ingenuity, so on and so forth, right? Quite wildly. All right, so we were able to maneuver from that, and then what was introduced was the peonage system, right? To whereas if you didn't have a job, in certain soliciting certain other aspects, then you could then be incarcerated, right? That was called the peonage system, another name for slavery. That turned into, as the brother was stating, convict leasing. Well, now you're in prison, and they can again extract free labor from you by the program which is called convict leasing. If you see programs today where most of the prisons are owned by private corporations, and so this is another form of convict leasing, where they again paying prisoners penny on the dollar to deal with aspects of manufacturing, making furniture and chairs, and other types of things of that nature. All right, so again, being able to exploit the people, and this is the current formation that we have of mass incarceration. All right, where there's different laws, legislation. I would be remiss to if I did not mention Jim Crow, okay, which took place, all right, afterwards, which was able to lock people up for using basic public accommodations, bathrooms, and water fountains. Lock people up for voting. All right, voter suppression and things of this nature. So this is Jim Crow. Fire hoses and dogs being sicked on you for exercising your basic and fundamental human rights. Okay, moving on through the, we can continue, family. But this line has continued up into and through present day, where we now have political prisoners. And I'll be remiss if I didn't mention no. And so this is another aspect of political prisoners, where the judicial system is rigged once again. You know, you don't have fair and biased judicial acts, right? You have these people that are being incarcerated without due process, right? And these are nuances that are skirted underneath certain state laws and legislations, okay? And if we don't have the proper representation, once again, back to representation, back to unity, back to solidarity, then we are all victims, okay? So today, it is your neighbor. Yesterday, it was the person from the neighboring county, and then tomorrow it's your father or mother or brother or cousin, and now folks want to, cry out and ask for justice. Okay, when it comes to their immediate family, when it hits home, by then, family, guess what? It's too late. It's too late. Okay, because the individuals that might have came to your aid, you let them get picked off one by one with a domino effect and get hit down the road. All right. So if we don't stand up and fight for these just causes and fight for our freedom and liberation, then we'll be picked off one by one like sitting ducks. All right, family. So this is what we're talking about. Stand up, step up, and speak out. Fight for your rights. Fight for your own liberation, family. Is the utmost importance. All right, and that includes fighting for others, right? That you see unjust, in unjust circumstances or treated unjustly. All right, so all for one and one for all. We're gonna win together, or we're gonna lose apart. All right, so I just wanted to cap that off really quickly for the brother Terrence. All right,
Yeah, that was fast.
all right. So with that being said, let me see if there's any additional questions or comments uh, for the
And
brother.
you got to be mindful that those are hostages down there,
Mm,
based on the fact that it's known that they're sitting in prison with no valid conviction or sentences. Yet the legislator won't fix it because the United States Supreme Court put it in their hands to do it. The Louisiana Supreme Court put it in their hands to do it. But these are the same people that implemented it. So asking like they're doing and pleading for um relief, it never happened and it's not going to happen like that. So the way that we're going is the right way because we're demanding and we're coming the way they're supposed to. We keeping it with human rights. They kept it as a criminal issue. It's not. It's bigger than that. They was able to kill it on procedural grounds and everything else. This is a real human rights issue that is happening everywhere. So our organization ain't just dealing with just Louisiana. It's spread because everywhere in America this is happening. We're being traded out in the system, and that's what they use to keep us oppressed. Where most of our money goes, that black individual, besides being consumers. But how you laid it out was real. And it's the laws that do the things that allow them to do it, but it's the United States Supreme Court that allows them to do the dirt and hide their hands. Now they're caught with their hand in the cookie jar, and they don't want to rectify it because people don't hear. It's not no noise behind it. That fire gets dwindled too quick because the people don't have that love inside. They don't have that passion, or they just fearful.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. And this is kind of an open-ended question, but what do you perceive might be possible to infuse or regenerate some of that love, for one another, for our communities, for our fellow brothers and sisters?
What can dwindle love? What can to love away black hate? How can we stop hating each other? How can we join? But you see, so many people believe in the higher being, but there's no real love out there. So how do we generate love? And the reality is, everything we speak about is people need people. We need each other. And I think we need to clear our minds and what we think is right and wrong. I think sometimes we need to reach out more and combine with people because the individuals that we go around, we don't trust. We don't trust the people closest to us because nobody don't want to come together in a unit form and put themselves in position and let those positions work themselves out to make that group work. Everybody want to be on top of everything. Everybody chasing recognition and reward. There's no love. We don't care about each other. You, I'm asking you, how do we rectify that? How do we bring the people together? I tell people about it all the time. It's unbelievable that people don't understand because we won't reach out and love that we hurt we hurt. Every household hurt. We need each other. Every household seems like they're going through something, whether financially, with family or both. And we don't understand what love can do, what unity can do. And I don't even know how to do it. I go out and reach out. It's not that easy because some people don't want to holler. They're going through much. And people love
So
to
I let
gravitate towards ignorance. I
thank
sure wish
you.
I knew. I sure wish I knew to galvanize the people, how to make them understand that we have to come together and that we have to love each other. We have to stop being covetous, want what the next person have and embrace them, and love them and want for them what we want for ourselves.
Indeed.
Okay,
Indeed.
so
Mm.
I kind of let you brothers have the floor. So I'm going to jump in now if you don't mind. um, okay, so one of the things that I'm charged to do, in terms of from my ancestors is not to continue to regurgitate or to keep doing some of the same things over and over again. And so I'm saying that to say two things. One, there's different types of love. So we need to be very clear about that. There are various types of love. Agape, eros, whatever. So here's the other thing. It is very difficult to love genuinely when one embraces falsehoods. So at this stage of the game, what we know is the indoctrinations that many of us have embraced has also injured us in the context of not being able to love, because when you are embracing stuff that is not true, not real, it hinders the capability to advance in love. Now, these things we have been told for quite a while, and for whatever reason, folks still keep saying some of the same things, as opposed to examining, focusing on the issues. Because when we begin to put other things in the mix, things get real strange, and it's designed that way. And at this stage of the game, we should know that because we've seen it over and over and over. What is it that keeps us divided? What is it that keeps us, as you said, not loving? What are some of the things? So, one, if we do not recognize the enemy, the essential, unnatural, but always existing enemy, first, you see. So again, we've been told some of these things for like 100 years, 100, if not even more so. And let me give you a perfect example why we now know, some of us, that we're not just going to keep sitting back and having these conversations and not take direct action. So don't get me wrong, we're going to have the conversation, because there's always a growth and development process, but best believe simultaneously we've taken some real action. And let me give you an example of that. Most know that certain things are unhealthy. Okay, not because I said it, because you've had a grandparent, a cousin, an uncle, a mother, a father that you saw for yourself what ended up happening. Now, after decades of knowing that, folks still embrace Coca-Cola, Pepsi-Cola, Twinkie, da, 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 da. So here's my point. And I'm not trying to bash anybody in particular. I'm just giving you a point of reference. If we know the truth about certain things and ignore it, act like it doesn't happen, is not there, or whatever, the same thing is applicable to the same thing of issues. We know certain things, but then we keep acting like it's not that. So I'm saying that to say this, that some are kind of moving in a more progressive, advanced kind of manner, because we have to. It's past time. Enough sacrifices have been made, enough blood has been shed, enough tears have been cried, and so forth. So we're not going to keep sitting back acting like we don't know what's really going on. If we think that this government is going to do the right thing by us after 300 years plus, after giving something and then taking back, giving something and taking it back, and then this happens over and over and over. And lastly, Brother Malcolm taught us 60 years ago, take your religion and you deal with it in whatever way you want to. Let's deal with the issues. Because see, that right there, we can agree on that. You can agree when somebody got their foot on your neck or a rope. You can agree with that. So he taught more than 60 years ago, there's certain things that we shouldn't even be engaging in a certain kind of manner. We won't do that. So I'm saying all that to say, family, that for those who get it at this stage of the game, some of us are here to make sure this stuff happens ASAP by any and all means necessary. Now, that doesn't mean that we won't be doing some of the other stuff, because, you know how mother is. Mother gonna always do what's best for the children regardless. But Queen Mother gonna be operating a little differently. Okay. So I'm going to leave it at that and give it back to Brother Lumumba.
All right. Yes, indeed, family. So thank you for that addition, Sister Empress. Absolutely. So hopefully, folks are waking up, sooner than later, and it doesn't take a tragedy to hit your doorstep, or for specifically your relatives, loved ones, so on and so forth, to be falsely incarcerated, for you to wake up and realize that we need a united front, and that this is everyone's fight, okay? Because this system of injustice is indiscriminate. All right, so it doesn't care, how light skinned you are, dark skinned, male, female, old, young, how much money you got in the bank, where you're at on a social economical ladder. Don't care about none of that. Okay, the main common denominator is, are you black, right? Or as they consider you, are you a nigga? Okay, and if so, as far as they're concerned, you don't have any rights. All right, you are subjected to be a slave and enslaved. All right, that's the way it should be. The good old boys, and the MAGA gang and all of that, they wanted to revert back to the good old days, as they call it, right? With open-ended oppression and degradation, dehumanization, etc. All right, so it been time. It been time. All right. So yeah, folks got to be more than woke. Folks got to make sure that they are at attention. All right. They're getting up, standing up, and fighting for their rights. All right. One
Brother
of the main
Timber,
things.
I just interject for a moment because I want people to kind of marinate on this thought, genocide. Because what you described earlier in breaking down the penal system and some of the stages and phases of imprisonment, enslavement, this is why we cannot continue to deal with it from the position of just civil rights. Note, genocide is the intentional and systematic destruction in whole or in part of a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group. The term was coined in 1944. Now, again, if we're going to use a system, a structure, such as 250 years with a few amendments, and not apply something else to it in order to at least begin to get some results from it, then that means the next generation and the next generation and the next generation will continue to do the same things over and over again, as we have seen for the past 100 years.
Indeed. Indeed. All right. So to jump back, what I was talking about. Um, with that being said, family. One of the most important aspects is to make sure that we decolonize our minds. All right, because that is the one of the main major things that has been affected. If you control how a man thinks, you don't have to worry about what he's going to do. Okay, because you already know that you can already dictate that. Okay, so we have to look at how we're being indoctrinated, how we're being enculturated, and are these things to our best interest, or are they in the interest of serving the masters? Okay, and so you have to make the determination: do you want to be free, or do you want to continue to be a slave? And that's really the bottom line at the end of the day. All right, so we're coming very quickly, family, to the lines being drawn, and there's not going to be a whole lot of fence sitting about it. Okay, either you're going to be on the side of freedom, or you're going to be on the side of oppression. All right, and so you know, all kinfolk is not all skin folk is not kinfolk. All right, so just because folks are black, don't mean that they for us. Okay, um, let's not get bamboozled, hoodwinked, and led astray. All right, because we also know that all quote unquote allies are not for us in the long run either. All right, we've been left hanging many times in the past, depending on others. So what that boils down to is it's up to us. All right, we all we got. And so once that's understood, hopefully a lot of this other stuff can go out the window, because it has been a continuous bombardment of the divide and conquer strategy, and folks don't seem to realize it and keep falling for a hook, line, and sinker. All right, whether it be a whole bunch of the isms, religion, um, sexism, ageism, you know, colorism, and now we got nationalism. I'm FBA, I'm this, I'm that. More divisiveness, more division. All right, like we don't understand. At the end of the day, nobody's asking. The police not. Are you FBA? Oh no, no, no. You're good, man. Hell no, they do not care. Right. So that's something we got to deal with. That is a struggle. but we got to be able to prioritize things, right? And determine what is it that we need to focus on primarily to make sure that we get these boots and knees off of our necks. After we get some breathing room, some space, some aspects of governance, some aspects of self-determination, sovereignty, however you want to describe it, name it and call it, having our own jurisdictions, then we can start focusing on some of these other things, all right? Or we can focus on those other things, but making sure they're not taking up the majority. They have their percentage, 15, 20% of our energy, right? But 80% of our energy is getting the oppressor's foot up off our necks collectively. All right. So I think these are some of the things that we need to focus on and be able to hone in on so we can push forward in a positive and progressive manner. One of the other main components is know thyself. Past knowing who the enemy is, know who you are.
Right.
Know thyself to thy own self be true. When you know yourself, then you love yourself. Then you can love yourself, right? That's what it's all about. We can't love each other because we don't love ourselves.
Right.
We hate ourselves. And Malcolm taught us that 60 plus years ago. Who taught you to hate yourself? To hate your skin? To hate your hair? And you still got people out here getting perms. If that's the mental colonization, family, we got to break these mental chains. We have to. It's imperative. And we got to model these things ourselves. Each one teach one, but be that example. Be that change that you want to see in the world and let that permeate. People feel that energy, and that's how a lot of our movements started and expanded. Using social media, utilizing these platform and apparatuses, not just to party and BS, but to connect, to network, to collaborate, to put out pertinent information, to disseminate it, to making sure we know what's going on collectively. All right, because that's how we got to move. So these are some of the important aspects and elements, family, that we have to make sure we understand. Knowing how do you know yourself? Knowing your history. All right, studying. All right, getting on social media for a little bit. If you're engaged in the social media, but you're on programs like this that's actually going to educate and edify you, empower you, that's one thing. But if you scrolling on social media, looking at bum fights and booty shaking, what are you doing? And I can't, even if you're doing that, again, utilize the ratio, utilize the percentages, right? And spend 15 minutes on that, on the BS. You know what I mean? Nobody's perfect. But then spend that 80 and 85% doing something actually productive, family. It's up to you. Dedication, determination, and discipline. The 3 Ds. If you don't have it, God bless. With that,
All right.
let me come back to the panel. Any additions, Brother Terrence, before I come back to Sister Empress?
Yeah, we're going to close this segment out because we got a couple other things we want to cover.
Okay. So with that being said, let me come back to Brother Terrence for any final thoughts, those remarks.
Well, I love what y'all brought forward because that sparks my interest. That sparks that fire in me, that love for my people. Like I said, individuals can support our cause, support this movement with a mirth because we screaming, let my people go. The last slaves in America, which are not the last slaves, they are hostages because every penitentiary, every penal system, they got slaves in, and they are family. And family needs family. The only way to keep the youth from going that way, we have to fight for their freedom is to show love because we need each other. We got to unite. We have to be chiefs and Indians. We have to come together as groups and we got to be a community. We got to start looking out for each other. We got to love each other. We got to stand for each other. Simple and plain. If it ain't love, it ain't none.
I say, thank you for that addition. Where can folks reach you at? How can they get in contact with you? Be able to support your movement, get additional information?
Well, you can go to allthewayright.com. That's all the way right, ALLTHERIGHT ministry.com. Phone number is on that right there. Email is on that. You go to that site right there, you can get informed, you can stay up to date, you can reach out, and you can be part of what we are part of. Be part of love.
All right, all right. So again, that's allthewayrightministries.com. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, yes, sir. All right, I'm putting that in the chat. All the way ministries.com. Tap in and be able to build with Brother Terrence and being able to liberate our people that are held hostages in the belly of the beast in its carceral system. All right. Thank you very much once again for
Thank
sharing that
you.
information, being able to build with us this evening, Brother Terrence. All right. And you're definitely welcome to stay on board as we continue the rest of the show. We probably be on for another 20 or so minutes for our last couple segments that we're going to cover. So thank you once
Yeah, but
again.
I love the information. Listen, I love the information.
All right,
I
yes,
love
sir.
my people. I love what y'all about. It's that warrior spirit. All right.
Indeed, indeed. Much appreciated. With that being said, let me come back over to Sister Empress.
Okay, so two things. I want to kind of give folks a little update on a few things that we've been working on and are bringing forward. And in the meantime, Brother Muma, please check your email. I sent one of the updated or more recent Mumia Abu Jamal commentaries, and I'd like to share that with folks tonight. Okay, so just to give people some little updates, and we'll come back to Brother Lumumba to get the update for tomorrow's Ubuntu session. We are moving forward. We almost have the location locked down for the 23rd, but we definitely are letting folks know that it is the kickoff. There is going to now be some extended stuff going on in December. And tomorrow we will give you the updates on that. But December 10th, of course, is International Human Rights Day. And then December the 17th is the actual day, the anniversary day that Paul Robeson and William Patterson took the petition to the United Nations, charging the United States with genocide. Now, keep in mind, that particular petition lists names, ages, locations of our people who were tortured and all kinds of things. This was 75 years ago. So if they were able to do something like that then with no kind of virtual nothing and so forth, certainly it behooves us to be able to represent accordingly. So with that said, this Ubuntu project is a part of the We Charge Genocide 21. And see, again, we're doing things in steps. So as we talk about projects and other things, please know that we are establishing a civil society. So again, not just an organization, but a structure that can enable us to proceed in both national and international circles. So again, within the next year, we will be formulating what is known as a civil society. That's a prelude to some other kinds of operations, because we have to talk about some forms of autonomy. That takes steps. So we're going to walk us all through some of this. At any rate, so tomorrow, Ubuntu, Brother Lumumba will give us some insight into that for tomorrow. And the other thing we want to share is that starting on the 28th of this month, we will have our annual Queen Mother Moore weekend. For sisters, there's going to be some special sessions for Black women for repair. We will begin to form our next steps in terms of what we're going to be doing in our communities, and also what we're going to be doing with our children and young adults when it comes to the issues of justice, repair, and healing. Black women have to come up with what it is that we're going to do in these areas as Black women, again, in our communities and for our children and young adults. There has to be some very specific things that we now agree that we're going to do. This lends us to our women now getting what's known to be on code. We will now begin to define what that is for us, being on code as Black women. So this is some of what will happen during Queen Mother Moore weekend. We're going to talk about Queen Mother Moore, her work, how we are obligated to and responsible to make certain that some of this is brought forward. And we're going to talk with some of the women who are now doing work around the issues of reparations, reparatory justice, and other things in that regard. We're going to also talk about the issue of foster care and some of the plans of action for Million Woman March Universal Movements and A Million Black Women Rising. So that, again, in developing independent institutions, so that we're not just talking about what some of the issues are and the problems are, but we actually are creating the remedies and solutions that will begin to bring us out of bondage for real. That means to operate our own agencies. So again, as a part of MWM 30, these are some of the things that you will hear us talk about with the objective of, again, 2030. We have to have certain things completed or at least close to it by the end of 2030. When we bring Sister Angela back, she will talk to us more about the African Union and their 2063 agenda. And what that means is here we got groups of people talking about what they're going to be doing between now and the year 2063. And most of us can't even plan on what we're going to be doing next year. Right? So that's about to change with the MWM Black Pride Agenda 2030. So these are some of the things that we'll be giving you more updates about. Not just tomorrow, but the rest of the year. And let's see, was one other thing I wanted to share. Brother Moon, are you ready for that clip?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, hold on one moment. So also for Wednesday, here in Philly, we begin to have our first session for our students, Black students and young adults. It's our first teaching and speak out just for them. For them to they can talk about whatever they want, but we're going to focus specifically on education. That's one of the key things. What do they feel about their education? The schools that they're going to? What do they feel about their representation in school and in our communities? So it's going to be an hour for them. This is just the first one. There's going to be many, many more. We just want to break the ice. Black students, and it'll be virtual as well. So for those that can't join us physically, they can join us virtually. We want our young students, young adults to step up. And we're going to be there to now assist, as Ella Baker did and Fannie Lou Hamer and others. They gave the tutelage to Kwame Ture, a.k.a. Stokely Carmichael, to H. Rap Brown, a.k.a. Iman Jamil Alamin, to Malcolm X, his sister, Ella, and Queen Mother Moore. So mothers, daughters, sisters, we now are going to be very clear about some things. And that means to make certain that some of our young folks know the truth. We talk about love, and it's a wonderful thing. But best believe, if we're leaving out truth, love going to have a real struggle. So our position now is to give them the truth about some things. Not Santa Claus, not the Easter Bunny. The truth. All right, Brother Mooney, you got it.
All right. Absolutely, family. Because there cannot be love without truth. Those things go hand in hand. All right, let me come over to Baba Mumia Abu Jamal with his latest commentary. For those of you who do not know, Baba Mumia is a award-winning, renowned journalist who was framed by the Philadelphia Police Department, all right, for unaliving a Philadelphia police officer, and has and currently is serving life in prison, and we're constantly fighting for his liberation, all right, in order to free Baba Mumia Abu Jamal, all right, now a senior facing elders abuse, medical neglect, all right, and so we want to make sure that people are abreast and aware of that. and also known as the voice of the voiceless family, and continuing to speak out against injustices that are happening not only locally and nationally, but globally. All right, so let's come to our brother Mia Abu Jamal with his latest commentary on the late great Steve Biko.
The question is about Steve Biko and his significance to young people today, both here and elsewhere. And I happen to think that Steve Biko, or Steve Bantu Biko, as he called himself, is a critical voice in not just the anti-apartheid movement, but in the Black freedom movement worldwide. His book, I Write What I Like, is not just kind of a solitary voice of resistance, but it is a collective yearning for resistance. And he was a central figure in the Black consciousness movement, and the state executed him, right, by brutality, because they feared that so many people would hear him and respond to him, that Biko would become the president of a new South Africa. And I don't mean a continuation of the state of South Africa, but a break with the state of South Africa and the rise of something Biko called Azania, a new state, a new African state. And of course, the repressive apartheid government executed him out of fear of his influence, because it was growing and growing and growing. But, you know, we put, I think, sometimes too much weight on the movement of the past, and we don't think about movements of the present. There is a group in South Africa today that is in resistance to the political leaders of South Africa today. And it's a collective of homeless people, or what they call the shack dwellers. And their name is Abalale Base Imjondolo. And they consider Steve Biko one of their ancestors. And they also are students right now of Frantz Fanon. And they call out how South Africa is not living the freedom that was yearned for decades after decades after decades, and how it has become, in some ways, a neoliberal state, as opposed to a new, free African republic, where education, housing, the land is returned to the African people. And to give you just a smidgen of information about the present versus the past, we're in the present, right? We're in this new world, right? Guess what percent of land in South Africa is owned by Africans today? Take a wild guess. I bet you did not say 8 or 9%. But guess what? That's the truth. So these are some of the lessons that Biko fought for. These are some of the lessons that Biko was killed by the apartheid government for. And these are some of the struggles that Biko still resonates among in South Africa, outside of South Africa, and throughout the Black world, who reads him and thinks about his life, his sacrifice, his struggle, and the struggles to come, with love, not fear. This is Mumia Abu Jamal. Thank you.
These commentaries are recorded by Prison Radio.
Yes, once again, powerful words by our brother Baba Mumia Abu Jamal.
And one of the reasons why that particular commentary is off the hook, it is so important. Again, we were talking about students earlier, and many do not really know or remember or what have you the importance of Black students for the 1950s and 1960s here in the U.S. Well, it just so happened that the stances, the campaigns, the actions that many Black students and young adults took during the 50s and the 60s inspired Stephen Bantu Biko. This is why in Azania, South Africa, he is known as the father of Black consciousness, not of African consciousness, of Black consciousness. Because in the 1950s and then in the 1960s, Black power was something that was echoed very, very strongly throughout the country. And it influenced students throughout the world. So it's important that we connect those Black dots and also begin to reignite that kind of synergy and energy. So again, and now connecting Black students nationwide, rather than them running up in malls and other kinds of, creating havoc here and there, what are we doing that puts them in the mindset of resistance? Not in a haphazard manner or in a chaotic manner, but in an organized, disciplined manner. That's what we're talking about. So, before we close out, at this stage of the game, again, if we don't know what it is that we need to do, should do, must do, and will do, then folks need to just go home, turn on the housewives or somebody, and call it a day. Okay. So before we close out, let's go back to the family and see if there's any questions or comments.
Right. I do have a question from Baba Akil. This is based on the last segment, and the question is where it seems the movement is strictly community led. What are city, state, and federal Black elected officials doing to counteract this issue? And to that, also religious leaders. And how will we be able to hold those individuals accountable? How can we, will we, must we?
Okay, and that was in response to Brother Terrence, or?
Yes, that was as far as the carceral system with the injustices, with people being held hostage, being given due process, and so forth. How is it that local, state, and federal officials have not come in to weigh in on this? And how can we, as well as quote unquote religious leaders, and how can we be able to press them further to make sure that they do address these issues and be held further accountable?
I'm not sure they fear it, but the legislative session um in Louisiana, the white caucus runs it. Blacks have no seats on it, so the voice not heard. And then most of the organizations that are fighting, they don't put money out to fight the fight. So it takes resources. It takes resources to galvanize to get out there. Money has to be generated to be able to fight this fight. So I don't understand why the organizations don't come together. I don't know if it's because they puppeted. I don't know if they're fearful of being attacked by the legislators and the governor, because that's what they're doing right now. Everybody that stand up, they're being attacked. And those that are placed in office to give you a promise they're gonna do something, don't do it. I'm from Pennsylvania, right here. I just was caught up in the system. I've been in Louisiana since '87, and it's a real slave state. So What we're doing, we started this grassroots movement right there in prison with Mr. Earl Victor and me. I just seen something different in who that individual was. He's on a level that you guys on, the international. He understands, nationhood. He understands sovereign power. We understand we need our own laws to run. Down there, we ain't getting no justice. We're trying to get that also removed from the federal and state court of Louisiana. Because there's no voice down there. They make sure they kill everything before they hear the merits of anything. That's why we need the public aware so they can follow. Because it's hard for you to hide something when it's out in the open. And it's hard for you to silence something when you have the right people, organization, and everything that are a part of it. And it takes numbers. Simple plain. It takes numbers because the legislators, black organizations are not doing that. They have been fighting wrong. They've been fighting the wrong fight. Like I said, on this issue, which is a civil issue, it's a human rights issue. The case that was pivotal to the information that it was based on preserving the supremacy of the white race, they dead it. Just like they try to stop us in the school system from learning our history, they trying to erase it as though it never happened. So they silence it. We're bringing the right fight, the right noise, because as you say, it's not just a civil issue; it's a human rights issue. I don't understand why they haven't gotten onto it. Some of them are now, and that's why this movement is important because this is the perfect time for people to join in and come together and galvanize and to get aware and see how they can support the cause, how they can become a part of the movement. And one of the ways, like I say, you stay informed by going to allthewayrightministries.com. But I do not understand. But the fact remains, like you say, you got to deal with truth. Have people in them on them seats. They have been killing the voting rights of black individuals from the beginning. Like Sister Empress said, they had the redistricting down there to take a seat away. So we have no voice. As we don't have the United Nations, nobody there to have that spoken voice for our people. It's not down there. Like I said, you just had somebody voted in the criminal clerk of court office. They over the legislative session attacked the city of New Orleans like they do Philly, and they just chopped that seat off because he was coming to, rectify the wrongdoing that was going on in there. They don't care about that. They used to kill them over the Voting Rights Act. They used to kill our people over that. Now, they just use the political power to cut them short. Right now, Governor Land and everything that's associated with the legislative power, the judicial, to everything, they just have total power. So they're fearful too. They're fearful, so fear stops a lot. I don't understand, but fear has stopped a lot. And I believe that a lot of people just don't realize that their voice matters and that it takes support of the 60 million Black African descendants to come together. They just don't have enough. So they don't have that power to move. And that's a problem. We don't have power. We don't own what we should own. We don't own this stuff. We don't own nothing. So we have nothing. We have no voice. We don't have the funds to put in a fight. And without having anybody politicking the right way, without having people galvanized, bringing forth movement, it's nothing. You see, y'all don't know about it. Sister Empress does from years ago, based on Reverend Errol Victor. I don't understand if it's fear or if it's just a lack of love or just a conflict in the fight that's going on because people looking for funding and grants instead of coming together, raising money and fighting without having strings attached.
Thank you for that addition, good brother. Let me come over to Sister Empress for any additions on that.
So, once again, going back to the great Dr. Francis Cresswell Singh and Baba Neely Fuller, if you do not understand the system of off-white supremacy, everything else will only confuse you.
Right.
Now, with that said, we do know why. We should, by this stage of the game. There was something in the United States called Reconstruction, where Black folks held offices. Then we saw another dynamic happen during the 60s and 70s. So my point is, if you don't understand this stuff by now, you never will. Because the cycles just keep going over and over again until you break the cycles. Breaking the cycles mean, number one, don't even believe in this stuff like that. And I'm not saying don't engage. I'm saying don't believe in it. That's different. That's very different. It's one thing when you have to play a game. It's another thing when you actually believe that stuff. So here's the reality. People are not going to be able to be in a position or office of a party that's ran by white folks at the top. It's not going to happen beyond a certain point. Anyone that goes outside, a little outside of the circle there or whatever, they're not going to survive it, or they're going to get moved out or whatever. It's designed that way. That's not going to change. It's a machine. It's well oiled. Stop hallucinating and thinking we're going to change all this stuff. We will only put additional burdens on the next generation. You see, you cannot change the spots off of certain animals or the venom or what. The point is, and again, I'm not suggesting not to engage or play the game. Learn how to play the game. But don't believe in stuff like that. That's insanity. To believe that you're going to actually obtain some justice beyond a certain point. Not going to happen. If we don't know that by now, then I don't know what else to say. 100 years we have documented lynchings from the Honorable Marcus Garvey up to present days. Over 100 years. So we've had people in office, we've had all kinds of stuff happen, and then they take it right back, and then you go back to square one again. So at some point you have to come out of the system to that degree. To that degree. I'm not saying, for some they want to get out of the whole thing, but for me, my ancestors got too much blood, sweat, and tears in this land, so I'm going to keep something here. You best believe that. But I'm not going to be a subject to that degree. And therein is the problem. As I said before, the Quakers, they have their own structure. They're in the system and they function within the system, but you best believe they know when to turn that bad boy off. Most of our people don't. We actually uphold and embrace the system. Their holidays, their ideas, their concepts, we believe all that stuff. I mean, literally internalize it. After all of this. So now, my suggestion to you, Brother Terrence, is go look up Steve Coakley, because you said you don't understand why. Well,
I don't understand, but I understand the weakness of our people.
well,
That they, like you say, the brainwashing, that they don't know how to come together, that they agree each
so
other.
here's the question. After knowing all of that, what are we talking about doing that is going to unravel some of that, you see? So, again, and Brother Lumumba mentioned it earlier, most folk don't know thyself. If you don't know thyself, that means there's a void. If there's a void, that means something else can jump in it. And that's exactly what we're seeing happen. This is what's happening with our children. So, again, we've had enough folk, scholars, educators, activists, freedom fighters, you name it, that have given us all of this information for years, from J.A. Rogers to present day. So, again, if we're not talking about this is what we're going to do, or at least attempt to do, then we just whistling Dixie.
For Louisiana, we're going to galvanize the people. We're going to bring forth this Let My People Go campaign, and we're going to spread it deep, because it's just not about Louisiana, because we suffer in every state in the union. So it's deeper than that. And like I say, you have 60 million, Black African descendants in America. We just need those like-minded ones to stop hiding as though the voices and the support don't matter and come on board. Just as we want them to fight with us, we want to fight with them because people need people, and we have to find a way to come together.
Well,
Therefore, I love what y'all doing right now. I can't wait to get involved because this is my spirit. We don't follow our spirit. We don't know where we from. We don't know ourselves. Like you say, if you don't know yourself, you can't love yourself. And if you don't love yourself, you ain't gonna fix what's wrong that make you hate yourself, that make you hate the person that look like you. Crazy. So
well, I'm just going to end with this final phrase, and it's pretty simplistic, and it is this, because this is where I'm at with it now. Build it and they will come. That's it.
build it, they would come. They won't build it with you.
Listen, you heard what I just said?
Build it,
Hear
and they
what I
will
just said?
come.
Did you hear what I just said? If we don't understand that at this stage of the game, then I don't know what else to say. So I'm gonna leave it there. Brother Mumba, you got it. I'm done.
I respect it. I love it. Ain't nothing like truth. That's what you just said. We need truth, huh? Truth and reality. If that don't move your wheel, what will?
Yeah.
Indeed, indeed. All right, family. Let me open up the floor once again for any questions and comments. Not sure if we have anybody left in the yard. If there's any comments from our live feeds, let me try to go over to. Oh yeah, shout out to brother Dre, brother Pollinator, and thank you for tapping in with us. Let me see if there's any comments on Facebook. Let me come there really quickly. I'm not seeing anything there. Okay. All right. So I believe that is all for the commentary for this evening. With that being said, looks like we get ready to close out, family. So I want to come back to Brother Terrence to see if there's any um, final words that he wants to share with us. Final thoughts, closing remarks once again, and then I'll come back over to Sister Empress.
I came on to inform the people about the 99 majority verdict rule just to get my lashing from Sister Empress and all the things that she done enlightened me on. And where you don't realize what you done for my spirit. See, when I get truth like that, I get to sit back, contemplate on it, and I build from it. So I love this lesson you gave me. And I love the heart that she don't know. I asked her one time, I spoke to her years ago, and I listened to her, and I've never met nobody like that. I'm like, Sister Empress, can a man handle you? She don't remember, but she told me no. But that's what we need. We don't love our women. We start loving our women, I think love will be different. We stop being covetous, man. We love what brings forth our answers, what brings forth all our time. It'll be different. Until then, it won't be different. You know,
Mm, yes, sir.
I'm
Yes,
spreading
sir.
love, man. I'm going to spread love. I'm going to try it in my own little gangster way.
All right. All right. Much appreciated. Thank you once again for joining us this evening,
Yo,
Brother
yeah,
Terrence, and all that you do. Keep fighting a good fight. With that being said, let me come back over to Sister Empress for final thoughts, closing remarks this evening.
So I had wanted to talk about a topic tonight, and unfortunately, because we had so many other things to talk about, we didn't get to it. So I'll put it on hold. But starting on August the 1st, we're going to start our rites of passage for our women and girls. So get ready for that, family, because again, know thyself, love thyself, heal thyself is a part of our new rites of passage. And ours is not just RITES, but also RIGHTS. So our sisters have to know who we are as women, as Black women, as the original mother. This is what we're going to be talking about. Our daughters, our young girls, they need to know more about who they are. They need to know some fundamentals. Many of our daughters, young girls, don't even know if they went to a restaurant and other than McDonald's or something like that, they probably most would not know the difference in the forks. And I mean, that might sound like, petty or stupid or, whatever. And I'm saying psychologically to not be able to respond to things and people in a certain kind of manner puts you in a very precarious situation. And I'm saying, as mothers and daughters, we're not sharing with our young girls certain fundamentals in terms of navigating in life. So these are some of the things that we're getting ready to address, in addition to some self-respect and pride and self-esteem. You see, so again, starting on August the 1st, and again, this is for both our women, because we got different levels going on, because some women are still like children, but that's a whole nother topic. At any rate, it'll be multi-generational, different levels. So we'll give you more information about that next week. But I wanted to talk about a story that I got earlier today, and again, we'll go more into it later, where a mother ended up unaliving a male because she thought he was invading the home without, anyone's permission, right? And so she shot him. Come to find out, the daughter invited this male, and so he was hiding under the bed. So we don't have time to go into that conversation tonight, but again, these are some real life day-to-day things that have to be dealt with in our communities. And we have to look at, of course, we can't stop everything, we can't address everything, but are we really dealing with some things that we really need to be dealt with? And I'm not talking about, oh, well, I got a 501c3, and so we're doing anti-violence stuff. Give me a break, please. Not really, but I'm just saying, a lot of them programs and stuff going on in our communities is so weak and so like European oriented that the children just go to it because it's like babysitting, and then they still go but wow. So anyway, we'll talk more about that next week.
All right, yes indeed. Thank you for that addition, Sister Empress. All right, and lastly, I want to add for tomorrow, Ubuntu Justice Initiative weekly coordinating and organizing meeting. It's going to be on Zoom as well as Facebook Live. That's at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is going to be our last session at 7 p.m. We're going to change our meeting times to 3 p.m. starting next week because there's other meetings going on in that evening, and we don't want to have a conflict of scheduling. All right. There's Prison Lives Matter meetings taking place, as well as land and food sovereignty meetings. So we want to be able to participate in those meetings and disseminate that information as well. I want to also mention with that to make sure that we are being abreast and aware of the campaigns to free our political prisoners. All right. Namely, currently we're looking at the Panther 3, which is Baba Kamal Siddiqui, Kenny Zulu Whitmore, uh, um, and did I say Kamal Siddiqui? Also, and being able to free our brother Kwame Bean Shakur, all right, um, as well as, of course, Mubi Abu Jamal, all right, which you mentioned earlier. All right, so let's just stay abreast and aware of the political prisoners. Now, this is just to name a few. Of course, there's individuals all across the nation, as Brother Terrence was mentioning, those individuals in Louisiana who are, being incarcerated, being held hostage without due process. All right, so tap in with the brother at allthewayrightministries.com, and let's build further towards eliminating this injustice system and bringing home our political prisoners at large, but especially focusing on our elder political prisoners, all right, who don't, who are uh, in their seasoned years, all right, and deserve to spend some of their last decades at home with their family. All right, already spending decades behind the wall, because of their political affiliations, and they're there to speak out against injustices. All right. So with that being said, for more information with our programs and initiatives, you can email nationalmwm at AOL.com. That's nationalmwm at AOL.com. You can also email powerman2282 at gmail.com. That's powerman2282 at gmail.com. You can also text 267-636-3802. That number again is 267-636-3802. All right. Shout out to my brother also, Chris Nelson, tap in with the brother for the fifth annual Morton Summer Jam. All right, that's July the 26th. You can tap in with him, get more information at MOSUMJAM, Mosumjam at gmail.com, MOSUMJAM at gmail.com. All right, that's the fifth annual Morton Summer Jam, Sunday, July 26th. 2026, Morton Barrel Hall. All right, 500 Highland Avenue, Morton, PA 19070. All right, free to the public of all ages, 12 to 7 p.m. All right, family. With that being said, we're getting ready to close out for this evening. Thank you once again. Thank you for our guests this evening, Sister Angela, as well as Brother Terrence. I would be remiss if I did not give thanks to the Most High Creator, Creatress. All right, give thanks to the ancestors and the elders, those who have shed blood, sweat, and tears and paved the way to allow us to be here today. I want to thank you all. All right, thank you all for our listening audience, those on Facebook Live, those on Zoom, those listening to it today, those who might listen to this program in the future. Hopefully, you're able to take something from it and be able to utilize it towards your own freedom and liberation, as well as the freedom and liberation of your brothers and sisters. All right, with that being said, I bid you all truth, justice, peace, love, freedom, power, prosperity, protection, patience, and divinely principled purpose. I want to say, let us continue to strategize, organize, and mobilize. And finally, I want to say, Pamoja Tutashinda, family, which means together we will win. Until next time, peace, power, and prosperity, family.